This is the 2022 Ducati Multistrada V4S. Hear the sound of this engine. This is a badass machine. I love the way this V4S engine sounds. Hear it. Just want to hear it all day. It sounds amazing. Totally different to inline fours and other machines and other bikes that I've ridden. Definitely the Italiano Ducati exotic soundtrack here. I'm getting used to the bike here. I'm gonna just take a couple of spins around here at the parking lot and get accustomed to the low speed handling of this bike. I typically do that when I ride a bike for the first time, and I like the way this handles. The bars on this are extremely wide and they're giving me excellent leverage to easily turn this bike around doing my normal 8, and that is sufficient. I feel comfortable. I'm now going to take it out on the California roadways and do an assessment of this bike. This engine sounds fantastic. Now, sitting on this bike, I am about 6'2". I'm 6'2" tall, and there's plenty of room here in the cockpit for me. This is a big bike. Lot of room here in the cockpit. Significant ergonomics. Very comfortable ergonomics. It's interesting how the design of this handlebar is shaped. It is wide, but notice how it tilts. It U-shapes towards the body, so it looks kind of odd, but it's done that way because the bike is so big. And I have ridden the Ducati Multistrada, the 1200, in the past, and I found it top heavy. However, comparing it to this does not feel as top heavy, and it feels quite agile and quite light compared to the older generation Multistrada 1200 that I rode. It was the Pikes Peak version. Check out my video on that. I believe it was the 2018 or 2019 version, but this bike feels significantly different in terms of handling wise and top heaviness wise. Does not feel that heavy even though it is a big bike. This Multistrada engine has 170 horsepower, and I'm telling you, it is a beast. It has got a lot of power throughout the rev range, but I've noticed that as you get the revolutions up, the power kicks in even more, and there is more than enough power on this bike to go 80, 90, 100 miles an hour, and you still got enough reserve power left to go even faster. I love this bike. I have always wanted to get a Ducati, and I know if I get a Ducati it'll be a Multistrada, only because I like comfort, I like ergonomics, and I like riding comfortably, and I like the touring aspects of touring California in a bike that is fast and has a lot of sporting capabilities. Speaking of sporting capabilities, I wouldn't classify this as an adventure motorcycle. In comparison to the GS 1250 GS, this is definitely much more sportier than the BMWs, and it is similar to the KTMs in terms of sportiness, but I think this is a little bit more sporty. It's definitely more agile and more easier to flick around than the KTM on this bike. I like the way this bike, the height of this bike, it sits on a 19-inch front wheel, and you sit up very tall on this bike. So that gives me excellent visibility here on the freeway. I can see over and above most of the cars here, and that makes me feel very comfortable in the sense that I have excellent visibility and I can predict and determine hazards before they impact me on the bike. And I feel the presence of this bike is huge, and cars notice you because of how big this bike is. It's not a small bike, and I feel that the larger the bike, the more safer it is, because cars notice and gives extra vision and visibility to cars, and that keeps you safe. Acceleration on this Multistrada is phenomenal. It just wants to pull and it keeps pulling, and I'm just extremely impressed by this 4S Ducati engine. It sounds fantastic and it's a pleasure to ride on the freeway. I like the combination of this 19 front and 17 rear. Makes it very tall and nice, comfortable ride to take over and soak in bumps compared to a 17-inch front wheel. And I still feel that it does not lose handling. Yes, the 17-inch handles much better on the Panigale. However, this handles these turns and movement quite well. So I do like Ducatis. I have a fascination for Ducati bikes, and I would definitely get the Multistrada in the Ducati range. I have tried out the Monster, I've tried out the 950, I've tried out the Ducati Super Sports. I have also ridden the Panigale, but I feel more comfortable on this just because it's an easy bike to ride, and with 170 horsepower, that's more than enough horsepower to deal with any terrains and to do, and also enable yourself to do fast speed riding here quite easily and quite comfortably. So I am extremely impressed by this Ducati Multistrada. The only thing that I think is a negative is the price. This has the skyhook suspension, and the skyhook suspension on this is phenomenal. If you get a Ducati, you definitely want to get the skyhook suspension because it levels rough grounds. I've ridden this Ducati on very rough terrain, and the skyhook suspension is really amazing, and I would highly recommend getting it on a Ducati. So I thoroughly enjoy riding this bike. It's phenomenal. The only negative I would have about the bike is its price, particularly if you get the 4S with skyhook. You're looking at about $29,000 here in USA. Without skyhook, the 4S retails for about $19,000. But if you want to get the skyhook suspension, you got to add another $10,000 to it. So that's the only negative I see about it, is the considerable how expensive it is, particularly the skyhook version, to other bikes. That's just very, very expensive. But Ducatis are geared towards people with a lot of wealth, so if you have it, it's not really an issue. One thing you'll notice here, it's got the radar activity. If you look at the left and right mirrors, it blinks yellows on the mirrors, and it gives you an indication that there is car on the side, so you should not cross lane. So I think that's a pretty cool feature, and I'm giving it the thumbs up here because I have been absolutely enjoyed riding this bike on the freeway. It is a phenomenal bike. Okay, stay tuned for more videos. You guys have a great day. Cheers.